to be up here at some point because, in a very practical way, once we understand, it's a conversation. It's a conversation, and uh, so so if you take the whole concept, I'm gonna use the term loosely. This is very loosely saying concept. Or prayer is the full blown engagement of relatives. Relatives. It's father and children. And a dialogue between father and children, and it's known that the father loves the children, that the children know that the father loves them. Then you approach the father from a position out of gratitude of knowing that you are loved and provided for and all of that. So now when you're talking, this is to say, the father loves me. He's shown by sending his only son to die for me. And he did not withhold anything that would have allowed me to feel as though I have been neglected. And so because of that, when I do talk to him, it's an expression of gratitude, and I want to hear what he has to say. And so therefore, it's an exchange that's going on. Is that and then to know that he knows what I'm going to say ahead of time, then I should be okay in saying it without trying to impress him by what I say. I just talk to him because he already knows what I'm about to say before I'm about to say it. And in case I mess it up while I'm doing it, I'm knowing, according to Romans chapter 8, that the Spirit of God is going to interpret before the throne what I have misspoke or what is not to where it's supposed to be, because by the time it gets to the throne of God, it is in line with what he really wants. So therefore, there's no pressure on us to talk to him. We just need to talk to him. He already knows. He already knows if you're shucking and jiving, coming to him with that stuff. He knows that. He's like, well, what do you think I am? So therefore, just go on and just talk to him. Just talk to him, and you don't have to worry about your best grammar. You don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about any of that. Just say, if you ebonically inclined, then you just talk to him ebonically, and he knows how to interpret that in a heavenly language to the throne anyway. So it's okay. It's okay. So just be okay. When you're talking to somebody and you really just talking to them, you are not that conscious of how you frame stuff. You just start talking. You know that person you talk to. Let me tell you this. You're not trying to say whether you're grammatically correct. You're just talking. And that doesn't mean that there is less reverence in talking to him in that way. You really are authentic, because that really is you. You know how, in all honesty, you know how you talk, and then you know how you talk for other people. You know how you flip it. But then when you really just talking and don't really care, you've got a certain way that you just talk. And then on the other hand, when you're around certain people, we tend to shift, change how it goes. And you know that, right? So here's God know all your language. He knows how fluent you are in all those languages. And all he's saying is, I just want you to talk to me so that I can talk back to you. That's all. Marines have a term called simplify, but we say simplify so that we can understand. The simpler, the better. So we know what we dealt with last week, and I know that Roland has a report back because he was the renegade who very clear that I ain't trying to talk to them. You remember that dialogue. Yeah, you remember he like, I ain't okay. So we're gonna give him a chance to tell us what his journey has been like since the last time we were together.
There's been no journey. It's been thoughts, but no journey.
Go on.
But I have took heed to what I've learned about what we've been taught about verbalizing forgiveness, and had the importance of forgiving a person verbally in their face, and releasing not only them but you too. And I understand just how important that is, because it's a spiritual thing.
So, but you say you just been thinking about it. You've been
in deep
reflection.
We have just been mindful of how important that is. I haven't done any action. I've just been really mindful of how just important
Okay,
it
all right,
is.
hold that right there. Why don't y'all give him some feedback on that? Why don't y'all give him some feedback on that? He just said he's just been thinking. That's almost like sitting on the dock of the bay. But just come on, let's just kind of see how that is. He has been thinking about it.
Um, what comes to thought is
Now you're not just thinking either, now are you?
no,
Okay, well,
because
okay,
I
let's see.
acted on it.
Okay.
That same night, I made sure of it. Didn't give myself no excuses. But to him that knoweth good and does it not,
So when you hear him say he's thinking about it, what does that when you hear that, how does that come across?
you haven't fully surrendered, or you have not surrendered. I guess there is no partial surrendered. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what's holding
Okay.
you back.
No, just
Okay.
stay locked in right there. Because
Okay.
otherwise you'll be an agitator. So just hold it right there.
Okay.
I'm just stopping agitation just to hear them hear the reflections of what it all sounds like, because this is important. Now remember, what we're doing is Hebrews 10, we're provoking one another unto good works by having these type of exchanges. Yes, ma'am. You talking about me staying here? I think you all got to get a camera in your hand to watch me, because because I'm not a manager. Y'all got to figure this out. Y'all have to figure this out some kind of way. You might have to hold it and move with it, because I can do it for so long, because I don't even know I'm moving, in all honesty, most of the time. But I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to do as much as I can. No, Dwayne, you can't help him with that one right now. Yeah, can't help him right there right now. I'm going to do as well as I can by staying here. Oh, well, don't be concerned about that. I can stay away from that part. Okay. I can stay away from that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
He's avoiding it.
No. Okay, here's the deal. I have to help you, like I said to her. If you say he, then that says that it said sounds like. Follow me. We want reflection. Otherwise, it'll become something other than and saying, I know what it is. And what we don't want you to do is to do that. We want to say what it sounds like.
It sounds like he's avoiding it.
Okay, now you follow, that's different, because otherwise it'd be, I know what your problem is, and we're trying to take it away from that. Okay, all right. Okay, any other sound?
It sounds like he's being prideful, and that's something that I can relate to myself.
No, don't do that either. See, now you went too far. Remember, we said we're trying to follow how we're controlling the dialogue. We're trying to say that we want it to be, what does that sound like when you hear it? Okay, keep it on that. Keep it on that. Because remember, the other editorial part that you would say would need to be said to him privately and not in this context. If you really want to say something directly, then you have to say it directly. But when we talk about reflection, you have to keep it framed right in that space.
It sounds like you want to do it his way.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like you're dealing with head knowledge.
No, hold on. You put the you in there, so you got to.
It's head knowledge, not heart knowledge. Knowledge versus wisdom, which would make you move.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other reflection? Now, you had your turn. Hold on. We want to see if there's anybody else. We don't want you to put icing on it yet. We want to see if anybody else has something to say. Not yet. We can't give it to him yet. It's not time. No,
He was just holding it.
No. Just kind of. No. The one. Mr. Fix It, stand still right there. Just hold on. We okay. Just hold on. Just come on back. We okay. We okay. Just slide. Ask James for help. Then that way, think about that. He could grab it. Now you follow in there, we got one. Yeah, so now you follow. That's how they go. So anybody else, what does it sound like? Because this is important as we go forward, because when we get exposed to something, there has to be some decision made, something very definitive. Something very definitive has got to happen. Okay, any other reflection? Otherwise, we're going to circle it back to him.
It sounds like intellectualizing it and not getting it into action.
Okay. Now, Roland, let's get back to Roland. What is your reluctance?
Like I said earlier, I have been mindful in thinking about.
No. You're restating the obvious. What is your reluctance to acting on it?
There's no reluctance. I just haven't done it yet.
No, that still is. That's procrastination. So why are you procrastinating? Or is it tomorrow? Is it next week? Is it 3 days from now? Or is it more time to reflect?
I wouldn't say more time to reflect because I already know what to do.
Okay, I got that part.
I have to just go ahead and do it.
It's like tomorrow, next week, next month,
It
next
could be,
year.
It could be tonight.
Could be no. That still keeps you in idle space. The reason why we're saying that if you're not definitive, the enemy will continue to give you reasons to put it off.
Right. I'm not planning on letting the enemy do that. I already have a God plan to make this happen.
What's that plan?
To just go do it.
All right, you need somebody to walk with you?
No.
Okay, I just want to check and see. All right. So you all ought to applaud him because he just made a commitment right in front of you. Now, I promise you, if we're not having this conversation, he probably doesn't move this quickly if we're not having this conversation. That's what provoking one another unto good works is all about, because to ourselves, we don't always know what we sound like. To ourselves, we don't always know. We think we're sounding a certain way, or until we hear, then it begins to make a lot more sense. So, any other reflections from last week as we dive in a little bit more? So Leslie, you had said you had taken a step to act on it. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, I actually realized once I left, I had 3 phone calls that I needed to make, not just one person. And I called all 3 people. One person did not respond, and so I sent a text message. But the other 2 actually ended up being good conversations and good reconciliation. So, but I did want to say to you, Roland, it might not turn out like
No.
how you think it-
Remember what I said. Remember what I said. If you're going to, all right.
But yeah, so I did get 2 great responses, and then I didn't get a response at all from one person.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on any movement? Did you make any adjustments? Did you make any shifts just in terms of where you are as it relates to? We don't want to use the term reconciliation, but let's just say living healthy, having healthy relationship. You cannot have a healthy relationship when you got junk in between you and anybody. And everybody is worth your cleaning out the junk. Whether they clean it out or not, you got to get it out of your yard. And they may have it in theirs, but you got to get it out of your yard. If you don't have it out of your yard, then the Lord is not interested in continuing to bless you. That Matthew 6 passage said, clean it up. Matthew 5, and on the Sermon on the Mount, chapters 5 through 7, clean it up. Don't come to him unless you clean it up. It does not say that the other person has to. It says you have to. Do not come before him even with a gift if there is some junk in your life. Because you got to get it out in order to be able to do it. Now, we talked about this last week, these things. What have you done with this? You've had some time. Roland has been in reflection mode, so we know he has been in reflection mode. But what about you in terms of the filter, and have you dealt with these things and replaced? Anybody replace something even from the last time? Now, here's what I'll tell you. If you haven't replaced something, then that said you already felt like nothing needed to happen and you couldn't get any better. Hello? Are we still here? I'm just saying. Because that would suggest I'm good and I don't have to deal with any of this, and I did not replace. Well, the implication of that says then that if we're continually growing and maturing, there has to be movement all of the time. So does anybody have a report just to talk about how you move from where you were last week at this time to where you are now, dealing with thought life? Thought life, really, we're talking about thought life.
I've held myself accountable to shifting my perspective. So whenever I
On
whenever a
On
thought
what?
comes, or whenever I hold on to a thought that
An
I
example?
shouldn't. Complaining in my
Okay.
head. Well, sometimes out loud, both.
No, okay, that's a nice way of saying it. Complaining in my head. If you're complaining in your head, you're complaining. Folks just haven't heard it
Yes,
because you are complaining. Because he said, in that heart, this stuff is happening. So go on.
And so I think last week that was something that you said, being mindful that if it is in our head, it's going to eventually come out of our mouth. And I've been justifying and rationalizing, saying, well, I didn't say it. And yeah, so no, I've been replacing it and shifting my perspective and asking, what are you trying to show me about me in this? And instead of choosing to complain in my head, I've been thankful or telling him, well, I'm grateful that you allowed me to see it this way. I'm grateful that you kept me and you protected me.
So let me ask. When you've had these complaining thoughts, what have you replaced it with?
Thankfulness.
Such as what words? Because complaining is associated with something that somebody else has done. Circumstances are not the way you want it. How have you replaced it? Because if it isn't, the next time something come up, you're going to go back there if you're not ready to say, here's my default. In other words, we're saying you have to get a new default, or just a matter of time, enough pressure will take you back to that, because a new default is the only thing that'll keep you from doing it. Because there's always something to complain about. There's always something to complain about, and we gotta have a default. All right.
I haven't had the urge to be understood since the last time.
So what have you
Really.
done instead?
I say it, and then I'm done.
Say what?
Whatever it is that I want to be understood about.
What's the difference?
It doesn't bother me if I'm not understood. This past week.
Okay, I was about to ask you, was it just this past week, or have you made a commitment to say, I don't care what anybody has to say, and however they take it? That's the level of all of this is that if I'm a new me, if I'm moving in that direction, then what that says is I've stepped away from that. I'm over here into this. Okay. So Karen, let's get to Proverbs chapter 4, verses 23 and 24. So while she's going there, you've got to think of your thoughts as like gold in a vault. You've got to think of your thoughts as gold in a vault, and you're trying to protect someone from getting to it. You've got to be thinking that the godly thoughts that I have are like gold in a vault, and I got to be thinking that I don't want anybody to get to it. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Proverbs 4:23-24.
Yes.
Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life.
Out of it springs the issues of life. The controlling variable as to how you look at things and how you go about engaging other people. How has your perspective changed just over the last week? What is different about how you're looking at things just in comparison to last week? Based upon it, would it be safe to say that most of you who are tuned in and who are here physically have been doing some reading or listening to some teaching during the course of the week? Would that be safe to say? So now, if you've been exposing yourself to that, is it a ritual? Is it something that you're doing? Or what's on the other side of that reading or that listening? And there should be something on the other side of that reading or that listening, and can you identify it? Or you have to keep asking yourself, why am I reading and why am I listening? Because there should be something that, just like taking in food, if you take in food, your body composition changes once you take it in. And so, if it's like that in the natural realm, then in the spiritual realm, when you're getting exposed to spiritual food, something should be different unless you throw it up. So, for the amount of time you spent reading the word and listening, what's there? So let me just find out how much time during the course of the last 7 days have you spent reading and listening? Just some random number. How many hours have you added it all up? Just somebody about how many hours? About how many hours? No, somebody say something. Just say it out loud. Hold on. For the whole week. I'm talking for the whole week. I'm talking about for the whole week. I'm talking about 7 days, over 7 days. About how much time would that look like? Okay, about 15. Just numbers. Just throw out some numbers. 6 during the course of the week. Okay, talk. What about that? Somebody, they're the only ones? Nobody else? 7, 10. Okay.
12.
We're gonna put Roland underneath it. Underneath
About an hour and a half intermittently.
during the course of the week.
Yes, sir.
You gotta speed it up, bro.
Yeah.
Man, speed it up. That ain't enough to even whet your appetite. Okay, I'm just gonna let that ain't enough to whet your appetite. You forget what you did doing that. I'm coming at you because of this. Because you got to understand. So let's just say 7 hours of intense labor in the word and listening to the word, and this is where we were, and then we get flooded with the word. Ephesians 5 says it is the washing of the water of the word. So then if that be the case, we clearly should not look like what we look like before we got washed like that. So that's the reason why I'm asking, where's the evidence? What do you do? And if you're not logging it to say, I read this, I learned this, and here's how I infused this, and this is what I look like now. So in other words, it's saying you got to go about it totally different. You guys got to be on the alert. All right. Paula's hand was up.
So when logging it, you want us to start logging the hours because
Not the hours, content.
okay. If
What
I'm
have you
logging,
infused?
so-
What's gone in? What did you grasp? And if you grasp it, how's it applied?
So you're asking me that now, or you're just saying that in general?
Well, I'm talking in general what we need to be doing because
Okay.
what I know is we're not doing that because then if we were, then we'd be talking about, boom, here's this, here's that. Because when we start talking about that amount of time, there should be some clear distinction. So now, and you won't know because it'll become a ritual unless you're defining it. I got this principle here, and I need to do something with it. If you don't do that, you just be going on to it, and before you know it's a ritual. You're satisfied with it, you're happy about it, but it becomes a ritual. That's what we're focusing on.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, and I understand what you're saying about the changing character as we're reading and ingesting the word. On one side, though, is it, or could it not be that we are getting a deeper understanding of who the Lord is, or whatever the principle of doctrine is, versus having some sort of character change or some sort of character modification?
You can't separate the two.
Okay.
What that means is the more you know about him, the more you want to be like him.
Right.
So then therefore, then if I say I had an aha moment about things of God, then now I got to be asking myself, now that I have that aha moment, what do I do about it? Or do I just talk about it?
All right,
Or does that cause me to change my whole perspective now that I've had this aha moment?
Okay. So maybe not a full perspective change about a particular thing, but maybe I think my question is more about understanding or getting additional illumination or clarification about whatever it is you're reading. You know, Jesus as our high priest,
Okay.
right? So I know what that does to me as I get a deeper understanding, or I've gotten a deeper understanding of that because I've been studying Hebrews, and so now it's like my love for him, my desire for him, is a little bit more in depth because I'm getting a fuller understanding. But how does that now relate to me and say others?
Then ask yourself, what's the point? I'm deeper now. Then I have to ask you, what's the point? Then what does it do for you?
And that's the question that I think I'm asking.
Right. Well, here's what
Right.
that says. If I'm understanding that he's the great high priest,
Right.
and I'm reading through the book of Hebrews and he's the great high priest, what that tells me is this great high priest is so accessible to me. The more I understand about him, the more comfortable I should become in talking to him and trusting him and doing that. My prayer life should increase. So now, transformatively, that's what that suggests, because I come to know he wants me. Therefore, I have this great high priest that I can go before, who wants me to come boldly before him as I go through Hebrews and recognize now I might have been reluctant. Now there may have been some things I would not have said. Now I can't wait to talk to him and for him to talk to me. So
Right.
the transformation should be, now that I know more, how much and how important he is to me, then I want to get closer. So it should change how I'm looking at everything.
Right. And that's, I think that's the point, the perspective I was getting to. So that is me now and the way that I'm relating to him, right?
But
And
what are you
on the-
doing differently?
My question is about how does that relate
That's
to
what I'm asking you.
others,
No.
Right?
What are you doing differently?
Maybe my intercession for my brothers and sisters.
Uh,
is a little-
maybe, or what are you doing differently? As a result of that new discovery,
Yeah.
what are you doing differently?
Yeah, my intercessory prayer is a little bit more wide. It's a little bit more specific.
What does that mean?
Meaning that I'm including, instead of putting people in a wide swath, I'm specifically identifying and praying for individuals that I know need prayer for.
What does
the
that
case
do
may
for
be.
you personally?
For me personally?
It's personal first.
Right.
So what does that do for you personally to find out more about him as this great high priest?
Okay. So for me, it helps me, or I think I feel a little differently about what he means to me in that sense.
How does it change your
Right.
life?
And so the way that it changes my life is I have a deeper affinity or a deeper depth of love for him because of what he has
Your
done.
deeper
and what he's
love
doing.
for him translates into what?
My prayer life is a lot different.
Or what?
Myself, my family.
Just listen.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
listen. If I gave you $1,000 now, how would that change you? You would give it back to me?
I mean,
Would you do something with it?
yeah.
Could you think of something you could do with it?
Sure.
You would act on it, right?
Absolutely.
Now go back to that principle and tell me, how do you act on it?
Okay.
Because if you got that, you say, I can do this. Evidence that I've had another 1,000 that I did not have.
Right.
It would be clear. Now let's go back to that same principle you described, terms of endearment. Then it should translate the same way.
Okay, so the what I was saying in terms of how it's impacted me is that my prayer life is a little different.
So let me ask you, would you just hold on to that $1,000 and marvel at the fact that you had it? Or
It's
would
not
you
that
start
much
doing
money,
something?
so no.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how much it is,
I
it's
know.
more than you had.
Yes.
And it was not what you had accounted for ahead of time. And so it put something different in front of you. Here's what that really means. Once I know something different, then I ought to do something different. Personally, before it can be utilized to connect with somebody else, my life has to be different. Then I can start to engage. I should love the Lord my God with all my heart and all my soul and all my might, and my neighbor as myself. Secondarily, so I can't get to that until the transformation has occurred with me personally. That's the reason why I'm saying to him, for all of us, the change has to be here before it can have any benefit outside of. So therefore, I got to come back to say, what's different about me? What does it look like now when people experience me before I got exposed to this? They ought to recognize that. They ought to, in order to put me in a position to be able to minister to them different. They ought to know, wow, something has changed. Something has, for instance, got this note today, and an award-winning writer, editor, going to have the chance to sit down and talk to. Award-winning, okay, let's just say the list of accolades is this long list of stuff. Well, I can't tell this person anything about writing. I can find out some things about writing that could be implemented. Now, if I had a conversation with this person and walk away as though I did not, then who's to blame? It will be me. But if I have the right conversation, then I ought to be better at what I do. And it should be obvious because of the exposure over here to this person. So when we're spending time in the Word, it ought to be obvious something has happened. The people should know something has happened. You're not the way you were. You're not the way you. So every week, people should be experiencing us different than they did the previous one. It should not be some warmed over stuff that we had the last time. It should be different. Here's the deal. We should not have the same praise report. It shouldn't be, well, I want to tell y'all again how good God is. You hear me 43 years ago, and and I'm still thanking him and blessing him for that. What did he do yesterday? What did he do this morning? That's great. I got that. Write that down, post it somewhere, reference it. But now we're looking for something fresh because if you've been spending time with him, it should be fresh. I'll be telling me something, yeah, you know what? I remember the car ran over me about 4 years ago. Great. Take the pictures and let me see them. Now I want to know, where are you now? I mean, like, how many times you going to keep telling me the same thing? I can tell you the same thing. Okay, don't say no more. Let me tell you what it did. Yeah, you went over there, and then you looked up in the sky, and you was blinking your eyes, and then you start blinking your eyes. Hey, okay, I know. I got your story now. I can mimic you. And I shouldn't be able to. It should be fresh. So what it is saying is, that's why when it says when the saints come together, Hebrews 10, they should be coming together with something that God's done that's fresh, motivating, and encouraging when the others hear. It should be like, I can't wait to tell you what God's been doing. I can't wait to tell you. And then while I'm listening to you, I'm saying, well, I want to tell you what he's been doing with me. It should be like that. Or we got to ask, why are we doing this? Like, what are we doing this for? Oh, what you been doing? My routine. I read my 3 chapters and 4 verses, 2 Psalms and a Proverbs, and then did that and listened to our praise music, and then I reflected, and then I meditated. Okay, what good did it do? Are you better off? Or are you a monk? What are you? What's the difference? Somebody ought to know. Otherwise, let your light so shine that they may see your good works and glorify the Father. And the only way that happens is because of this relationship. It's the spending time with him that causes things to become different. And it's been too many times. The lack of authority, the lack of activated power in the church is because the saints don't act out the dunamis of the word.
I think you just answered my question. Yeah.
Yeah, like, listen, now, I don't know what I was said, but I can just tell you that the ones who came and accompanied me on Sunday probably have never heard me like that. They probably have never heard me like that. And if you want to figure out what it is, go to Cold Brilliant Presbyterian Church this past Sunday, and then you'll get to see. They probably have never heard me like that. Me either. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, they trying to figure out, who is this man? It's like, it comes out. It comes out. What I live, what I hear, it just comes out, and it just comes out, and I don't try to restrain it, don't try to prevent it. It just comes out. And what's coming out is what's in me. What's coming out is what's in me. And that's what it should be. You know, it's like all of a sudden God opened my eyes to something. I'm talking about all of us. It ought to be God opened my eyes to something, and I'm about to start acting differently because, and I'm not going to try to be so private about it. I need to say, you know, and I was thinking stupid, and then now all of a sudden God straightened me up because I tell you, I was showing up thinking stupid. I was thinking so stupid about that, and it said, I just thought stupid all over again. I thought I was okay, and I saw something, and I started thinking stupid this morning. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus, and then in a few minutes it was on stupid. I mean, come on now, because it's so easy. It's so easy. That's why in Philippians 2 it says, "Let this mind be in you, the same that was in Christ Jesus." Because if you don't, in other words, it says allow it. Because if you don't, that other mind is alive and well. And it's so familiar, it can't wait. It's almost like having a mad dog caged up, and he's saying, just give me a chance, just get me out of here. Let me come on out of here. It's like it's just sitting right there, just waiting, just chomping at the bit, turning. You open the gate, I'll finish it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today I do have a confession, because normally when I'm at work, I don't mind talking to people that I know are believers. And I do sometimes have whatever my flesh don't want to talk about the Lord to people I'm not sure are believers. But today, the Lord took over, and my mouth was just going. So they're doing, they're getting ready to go through layoffs and stuff like that. And one of the ladies came over, and she was just, complaining, but she was a little afraid, fearful of her job. And there was other people around. And so at first I tried to tell her, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. But she kept finding reasons to be afraid. So I said, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you. And I can't even tell you